I'm a Londoner born and bred. 3 generations of my family have lived and worked alongside the Thames. And I want to show you how today it's even busier and a bigger part of our lives than ever.
Don't move! It's very difficult, to interview you while I'm counting.
How many have you got in there now?
God knows.
My journey will take me to its furthest reaches, from the Cotswolds in the west, cool, some size quarry, isn't it? To where the river meets the sea in the east.
They're all laughing over that stuff. Keep a straight face. I'm doing my best.
I'll meet people whose working lives depend on the Thames and who feel as passionately about it as I do.
We love our Thames. We're so lucky.
Best job in the world, Tom. Well, apart from yours, obviously.
I'll go behind the scenes of its most iconic landmarks. Oh, wow. Bang! And discover its hidden gems.
They do look sci-fi, don't they?
This is the River Thames as you've never seen it before. Hectic, hard-working, breathtaking, awe-inspiring. I can't wait. For me, the Thames is and always will be the queen of all rivers. And for centuries, it's been at the heart of royal lifestyles. My journey starts 20 miles upstream of central London in Richmond upon Thames. Here, on the river's bank, is the favourite residence of one of England's most colourful rulers. This is Hampton Court Palace. Various kings and queens lived here, but we all know it, don't we, because of Henry VIII. All 6 of his wives came here, and his lovers too. This place was Henry VIII's ego built in brick. It's pretty grand, isn't it? With its dramatic facade dominating the waterfront, it's easy to see why Hampton Court ranked #1 of all Henry's 50-odd homes. He travelled to and from the palace by royal barge, using the grand astronomical clock which charted the tides. And according to curator Hilary Lynn, its position on the Thames was no accident.
This is the reason that Hampton Court Palace is here at all.
What, the river?
The river, absolutely. So Henry VIII and his courtiers built a string of their palaces along the river because it's an incredibly convenient mode of transportation and a really fantastic way of getting about.
Also using the Thames for transport were traders in luxury goods, all looking for a slice of Henry's great wealth.
Just a little way down there would have been the posh landing jetty, where the king or the queen and the courtiers and the merchants, because they were very important people, would have disembarked from the river.
So would they actually have been trading here? Would they have brought stuff and be waiting tremulously to find out whether or not actually they were going to sell anything?
Well, they were granted access into the palace itself because as Italian merchants and bankers, they had quite a high status. So they had direct access to the king and they'd go and show their wares.
So this is international stuff? This isn't just a bloke from down the road in his boat?
No. So we've got silks coming from the Far East, going via Venice, and the Italian merchants are bringing them over here to London.
What else was going on here?
Where we're standing,
yeah.
Roughly about here would have been what was called the Great House of Easement, which was actually the loos for Hampton Court Palace.
We're standing on where the toilets
are. We basically are.
Trust me to end up here. But the Thames wasn't just used for toilets, trade and transport.
Now, you've got 1,000 courtiers here, and they're getting very stinky because they're not having baths and things like that. But their underwear is regularly washed. Now, that's linen, and that's washed in the river, very likely.
So you don't want it downstream of the loos, presumably?
Upstream is where I think that the laundresses were taking those thousands and thousands of items of underwear every day.
Can you imagine the banter that would have been going on here? It's so kind of elegant now, isn't it? But in those days, there's all the merchants coming in, there's the women laughing and shouting.
Absolutely. If you could put me in any point in history, it would be as a laundress at the River Thames. The gossip they must have had, the things they must have seen.
The servant side of the palace really intrigues me, so I'm going in. When the king and whichever wife he had at the time were in residence, Hampton Court was the centre of government, a party house and a hotel. The place would have been heaving with up to 1,000 people, all eating, sleeping, schmoozing and making merry. And they all needed waiting on.
These are the kitchens where the food for Henry and his court would have been prepared. Hampton Court had the largest kitchens in Tudor England. If you want to see quite how grand they were, take a look at that ceiling.
1,600 meals a day would have been churned out from here. Now it's open to visitors, and conservator Jen and her team at historic royal palaces keep it all clean and tidy.
Why do you need to get all the dust off, apart from it looking a bit unsightly?
So dust is considered one of the agents of deterioration. So dust can attract pests. Pests really like to eat dust. You know, it's made up of skin and dirt and everything in between.
Actually, though, it's a bit of a con, isn't it? Because if this really was a Tudor kitchen, it would have been covered in grease.
Yes, definitely. It'd be so different.
Spit boys basting away at the old meat. It would have been really hot, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Being shouted at by the
Yeah.
cooks. Food going this way and that.
Definitely, definitely, yes.
The kitchen may be a shrine to the palace's Tudor past, but outside, the gardens at Hampton Court are still busy, with gardeners growing the same plants as 500 years ago.
What are you up to, Hilary?
I'm pruning back the hyssop.
Can I give you a hand?
Certainly can, yeah.
Here, a second.
Secateurs for you. There you go.
Tell me about hyssop. What's it for?
So it would have been strewn on the floors of the palaces along with the rushes and other aromatic herbs, perhaps like thyme or rosemary, and it would have given off a nice scent as people walked on it.
Yes, a bit like sort of lavender or mint, except it's not got quite such an in-your-face smell, is it?
Yeah, it's not a strong smell, no.
Have I been cutting these down short enough, do you think?
You're doing it perfectly, that's fine.
Tudor air freshener, who'd have thought it? And there's more plants I don't recognise.
So this is another herb, it's called horehound.
Horehound?
Yeah,
How do
like
you spell that?
Horehound. I think it comes from harhoon, which means like a hairy leaf.
Oh, that makes sense, doesn't it? Do we know what this was used for?
Would have been used in the brewing process.
Yep.
In the days before hops were widely used in brewing, there would have been lots of herbs and spices added to beer, and this would have been part of that mixture. So it's quite probable that King Henry VIII would have drank a spiced ale, which would have had horehound in it. Yeah.
Was it used for anything else other than brewing?
Yeah, it was sometimes used as a cough remedy, like mixed with sugar or honey.
It's very bitter, isn't it?
It would be very bitter, yeah.
I wish I hadn't done that.
Next,
Oh, blimey, what's happening?
more royal blunders. And I feel the force
Ah, no,
of the river's sovereign swan.
I'm going to be bruised along here tomorrow.
I'm exploring the River Thames royal connections, discovering how it empowered the egos and status of our kings and queens. 500 years ago, the river was a portal to Hampton Court, Henry VIII's royal pleasure palace.
He flaunted his power and his money here with fabulous banquets and glorious wall hangings and all the other accoutrements of courtly life.
Though Henry wasn't Hampton Court's first owner. The original palace was built by his right-hand man, Cardinal Wolsey. Wolsey wanted somewhere grand, where he could host the king and monarchs from across Europe. The Thames enabled him to do just that. He blew a fortune creating a palace fit for royalty, but was so successful, Henry then booted him out, taking Hampton Court for himself, and making it even bigger.
There's 1,390 rooms here. It's always been a monumental task to look after it.
The long chain of rooms was a deliberate design. They were the king's filter, used to keep the unworthy as far away as possible. The higher you ranked, the deeper you could penetrate inside the palace.
Wow, this is a magnificent room
Yeah, so this is the Great Hall, Tony.
with some magnificent tapestries.
Yeah, these are known as the Abraham tapestries. They were woven in Brussels and commissioned by Henry VIII.
Get to the Great Hall and Henry thought something of you. The room was built in the 1530s to celebrate his marriage to Anne Boleyn. But she was beheaded before she saw the stunning tapestries. Woven in real gold and silver, It's thought Henry commissioned these Old Testament scenes a year later, while rejoicing in the birth of his son with Jane Seymour, wife number 3. But the tapestries weren't finished during her stretch either. By the time they were eventually hung in 1546, Henry was on to wife number 6, Catherine Parr.
Must be a bit of a problem to maintain.
Yeah, we have to worry about light. So the light coming in can cause damage by fading the threads of the textiles.
Yeah, you can't just put up curtains, pull them across on a sunny day, can you?
Historically, I think that has been done, but what we're doing at the moment is trialling a new method. If you just look up there, we're building a frame that will have a UV filter over it and just fitting it into the archways. Another factor we will worry about is humidity in the space. I have a sensor here.
Let's have a look.
There you go.
Can I have a go?
Yeah, go for it.
Do I have to test all the way round?
Yeah, just go for a spot reading here and there.
OK,
Yeah.
what kind of number's bad news?
Anything above 60, Tony, we don't want.
Oh, it's not bad. It's all in the mid-50s here.
Oh, that's great.
What does humidity do to the tapestries?
So if it's changing constantly, it will cause the threads to sort of expand and contract.
Oh, blimey, what's happening? Was that me?
Yeah, that was you, but don't worry. That's just the alarm to stop people from touching the tapestries. You're all right.
Do you know, I thought I'd set off a sprinkler. 20 million quid's worth of problem there.
Back in the day, Henry had guards rather than alarms to protect his number 1 pad on the Thames. Like modern-day bouncers, they'd be on each doorway, giving you the once-over before letting you through. The more expensive your attire, the further in you could come. And Henry's strict VIP dress code continued under all his successors.
Do I need to put some gloves on if we're going to be poking around
Yes,
with-
please.
Curator O'Leary's got some to show me.
So, this is from the 1780s, 1790, and it would have been worn by a courtier at the court of George III. There it is. So, it's beautiful silk, but it's exquisitely embroidered.
What would this have been worth?
It's an astronomical cost. This is probably the same sort of cost as a supercar.
O'Leary looks after 10,000 items of royal and ceremonial dress, but the next piece is one of her most precious finds.
This is called the Bacton altar cloth, and it is very probably the only surviving example of one of Elizabeth I's dresses.
It had been thought that every single one of Elizabeth's 1,900 dresses had been lost forever, until O'Leary discovered this fabric hanging in a Herefordshire church in 2015.
At the moment, it obviously doesn't look like a dress. The shape it is in now is because it was for many centuries used as an altar cloth.
How do we know that this is Queen Elizabeth's dress?
We have evidence of pattern cutting, which means that it used to be a dress. The clincher is that it's on cloth of silver. Now, in the Tudor period, cloth of silver was reserved by sumptuary law for the immediate members of the royal family. So you can see here the little threads of silver.
That's pretty much of a clincher, isn't
It
it?
kind of is.
This remarkable collection spans centuries of royal fashion, and the next one you might just recognise.
This one's exquisite.
So what we have here is a dress that's nicknamed the mermaid dress, but was designed by Catherine Walker for Princess Diana in 1986, and it was one of Princess Diana's favourite dresses. She wore it on a number of occasions. She knew what worked under the glare of the camera and the flashlight, and this definitely did the trick, because as those lights went off, it just popped.
Silver may have made way for sequins, but the impetus to impress has been a constant at Hampton Court, from the moment Henry VIII swooped in and took over this palace on the Thames. The Thames royal connections don't end with its palaces, though. I've come 6 miles upstream to find out more about another regal resident of the river.
I'm in Shepperton. The Thames is particularly beautiful here. And there are these iconic birds, all curious as usual.
All unmarked mute swans on the Thames have been owned by the Crown since the 12th century. They're literally avian royalty.
It's funny, isn't it? If you see, oh, excuse me, a pigeon or a thrush or something, you don't go, oh, wow, it's a pigeon or a thrush. But if you see these, you go, swans, swans. Even people who aren't interested in birds are attracted by swans. They're so elegant, so regal, so graceful.
And hundreds of years ago, tasty too. Henry VIII was famously supposed to have feasted on one straight after the beheading of Anne Boleyn. Considered a delectable delicacy, it was the reason these royal birds were first protected by the Crown. Thankfully, here at Shepperton, there's now a very different kind of protection going on.
Oh, here's some swans.
I'm joining the team from Shepperton Swan Sanctuary, who work day and night to keep the Thames flock in fine fettle.
And we're just going to check this one's leg.
Today, Sally and Ian, both experienced swan wranglers from the sanctuary, are checking birds over for injury and illness.
So sometimes on their feet they can get something called bumblefoot, which is like the hard lumps on their feet there. But this guy's one isn't too bad. You feel their feet are quite warm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if he had a damaged leg and the circulation wasn't going around very well, then that would be quite cold. You'd be able to tell.
Oh, no, it's definitely warm.
But it's lovely and warm.
It's a lovely feeling, isn't it? It's like an old piece of parchment,
Yes.
an old map or something.
Yes. The other thing that we check for is in the mouth.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, they've got no teeth.
Ah, so they've got lots of serrated tongue.
It's serrated all the way down here.
What are those serrations for?
Well, that's what for them to grind up their foods and to rip vegetation and all that sort of stuff.
It's amazing looking down that mouth.
Yeah.
Beautiful piece of design.
This one's absolutely fine. That's it.
Go on.
Fortunately, this bird has a clean bill of health, so it won't be coming with me to the sanctuary half a mile inland. 3,000 sick and injured swans are nursed here every year, all thanks to the dedication and vision of Melanie Nelson and her family.
God, how many swans have you got here?
Quite a lot.
So you and your family actually created this?
Yes, we did. Lots of hard work.
Did you actually start by saying, right, we're going to devote our lives to swans, or did it just gradually happen?
Yeah, it was just an evolution of Mum rescuing various creatures, and then we came across a swan one day that needed help, and that sort of snowballed from there.
What started out as a makeshift sanctuary in Melanie's mum's back garden in the early 80s has now grown into the largest swan hospital in the UK, which has been on this 20-acre site since 2004.
Do you want a bit of grub? They're such big birds.
They are very big, so their bones are hollow to make them light enough for flight, because otherwise they would never take off.
Yeah.
An adult mute swan weighs around 10 kilos, with a wingspan around 2.2 metres. And while they are beautiful, these birds do have a reputation for being, well, vicious.
Could they really break a man's arm?
Well, I think if you weren't experienced in handling them and you hit the right buttons, yes, I think they could.
Suddenly, I'm feeling a bit more nervous about my day ahead. Thankfully, I'm starting my volunteer shift with a hands-off job, mucking out.
Well, I've got to find the bits that have got poo in and put them in here.
Not the most glamorous task, but at least it's helping me conquer my fears.
They're actually much more blasé than I thought they'd be. But 10 minutes ago, I was really apprehensive, thinking, oh, God, it's going to attack me. But look at them. Like a bunch of hippies around a bowl. Whatever that's like.
Just like our hospitals, this sanctuary doesn't sleep. It's on 24-hour alert, 365 days a year, with state-of-the-art X-ray equipment, an operating theatre and an intensive care ward.
And here we have our cygnets.
Some of these adorable balls of fluff are orphans, too young to survive alone. Others are just unwell and need some TLC before being released back into the wild.
So So we're just going to pick the biggest one up and give him a little weigh.
Why does he need weigh?
He came in because he'd given up eating. We're not really sure why. So we're giving him some treatment.
Hello.
This should be a gentle introduction to swan handling.
Just grab
Come on,
him.
sweetheart. Here we go.
That's it.
Oh, it's so light.
They are.
That's amazing.
That's where
so
light
when you
as
were
a
saying
feather
about
comes.
how they've got hollow bones,
Yeah.
it's like picking up a handful of tissues.
Yeah.
Hello, matey.
Let's see if we can get him to sit nicely on the scales. 1.38.
And what did he weigh when he came in?
1.35. Tiny
Not
game.
much. Really nice. I want to take this one home.
My new friend is just at the start of his recovery, but thanks to the team here, others are at the end. And my next challenge is to capture a fighting fit adult swan ready for release.
The things that you have to be careful about is the wings. The wings they use to fight with, and you know, they can turn around and give you a bit of a wallop.
Not quite the reassurance I was hoping for.
What we're going to do is we're going to walk them over into a corner and they're going to slowly walk away from us because that's what they would do out in the wild.
Part of Sally's job is to train volunteers and people like railway and airport workers how to pick up swans safely.
And we're going to just snag one up, just
Yeah.
grab it either side of its body
Yeah.
and up under your armpit.
Yeah. Go on, yeah, I got it.
That was easy.
You're all right. No.
Maybe not.
I'm going to be bruised along here tomorrow.
I'm not getting any better at this. But with Sally's help, I've got him.
Brilliant, well held.
To get them and us safely back to the Thames, transportation jackets are used. Anyone would think he didn't want to leave the comfort of the Swan Sanctuary.
There you go, babe.
2 swans are being released today, and they've got a welcome party.
I love the way their mates have come over to see how they are.
They're very nosy. They're all waiting to see what's happening.
You must get quite attached to some of them.
We get really attached to some of them, but getting them back onto the river is the best part. As you can see, they're raring to go.
They are. It's like a pair of greyhounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we let them go then?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Go on, darling. Way! Oh, that's a nice ending,
Yes,
isn't it?
that's a very nice ending.
Yeah.
That's a happy ending. They go off with their friends now and they'll be happy.
The Greek philosophers used to say that when a swan's about to die, it begins to sing beautifully. But let's hope that with the help of the Swan Sanctuary people, the swan song for these guys will be quite a long time ahead.
Next, I find out if I'm cut out for a rather royal pastime.
Point towards the ball.
Oh!
Nearly.
Or perhaps not. Damn.
And again.
I grew up around the industrial, working-class east end of the Thames. But on this journey, I've been discovering the royal side of the river, which brings me to Richmond. Here, southwest of the city and right on the Thames, is Greater London's only remaining polo club. Ham Polo Club was established in 1926 and it's patronised by Prince Charles and sons William and Harry.
Thanks a lot, see you.
Polo is one of the fastest sports in the world, the horses reaching 30 miles an hour, twisting and turning all the time. These fields have hosted teams from all over the world. There's a practice session this afternoon for the club's fee-paying members. And as polo's a summer sport, manager Will Healy has his work cut out keeping the ground in tip-top condition. But he's got a secret weapon to help him.
Does it fold out, Will?
Yeah.
It's one of the strangest sprinklers I've ever seen.
Right. Oh my God, more? Oh, it's brilliant. It's like my mum's old dining table. It just keeps opening and opening. OK, the million-dollar question, where does the water come from?
It comes from the Thames, which is about 100 yards that way.
But doesn't that mess around with water levels and stuff? You've got Teddington Lock just there.
Yeah, so we're actually before any lock.
Oh, you're just before the lock, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not actually interfering with levels of water at all.
How much water did you get out of it?
We've got a license to abstract 29,000 cubic metres a year.
What about in a day?
It throws out about 103 gallons a minute, so quite a lot of water.
That is a lot of water, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hence the proximity to the Thames. It's one of the reasons the club has survived.
I love the fact that it says programme rain.
Exactly.
Can I press the button?
You can go ahead.
The machine slowly reels itself in.
Yeah, it is moving very, very slowly, but it is moving. How long before it gets from there to here?
It'll take about 15 hours to get all the way here from the end of the field.
So that's the whole series for me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be great viewing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Watering like this helps keep the ground soft, which is good for the game and for the horses. There's a reason Will takes particular pride in his work.
How did this polo club start off?
My grandfather started this polo club. And that was just after the Second World War.
Yeah.
Previously to that, most of polo in this country was centred in London at 3 main clubs. And it was a big game then. They drew crowds of up to 20,000 people for some matches. Yeah.
But then came the Second World War.
They all folded during the war, and polo never returned to London apart from this club.
So do you feel in some sense duty-bound to keep it going because it's a family thing?
Yeah, I do.
There must be a bit of prestige about playing in the only club in London.
There is a certain amount. I mean, we get a lot of crowds at a weekend. You might have 1,000 people here watching on a Sunday afternoon.
It may be a game played by the super rich, but anyone can come and watch.
Where does polo come from?
We think it started about 2,000 years ago in what was then Persia. Very different to the game we play now.
It's believed to have been a way of improving horse riding skills.
It was really adopted by the British in India back in the days of the Raj and brought back to England, and the rules were formalised.
So round about the time that football and cricket were getting standardised rules, you got them too?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've played cricket and football, but never polo.
I wanted to have a go on a polo pony. So, here I am having my first practice.
Don't laugh. This is Coach Jason Warren.
Jason, how do I whack the ball once I'm up here?
We're going to hit the flat of the stick, not the end. It's not croquet.
Ah, I never knew that.
Right, so if you pick up the stick...
I'm left-handed.
That's fine. We can only play polo with the right. It's part of the rules.
Is that... You're not winding me up?
No.
So, inadequate, inept me is going to have to play with the wrong hand. All right. Okay.
So just back, let the stick do the work, and then drop.
Missed.
Set it again.
Way!
Perfect, nice.
That's better.
I'm almost ready for the real thing.
This is the truth. I used to ride quite a bit. I've ridden on camera quite a lot, but then I had an accident. I was wearing my glasses. I fell off. My hat went into my glasses, which went into my face. It was all a bit of a mess. And I haven't ridden since. And I love horses. And I'm really looking forward to getting on one. But I'm also bricking it.
Yep.
Know what? It's good to be back in the saddle.
She's actually smaller than I thought she'd be. But they're all fairly small, aren't they?
Yeah, just because it's a good size of a horse to be able to manoeuvre them and so you're closer to the ground, obviously.
Yeah.
Ah, to reach the ball. The breed's from Argentina, centre of today's polo world.
Point towards the ball, steer in, that's it.
Oh!
Nearly.
Damn. Damn.
And again. So I'll tell you when to go back, wait, back, drop.
Yeah. Yes! Bish bash.
Okay, same again. Back, drop. Nice.
That was
good
the
shot.
best so far. Oh, I wish they'd done that as a wide shot. You'd have seen it. Went virtually half a mile.
That'll do me. Besides, there's a practice session to get ready.
The pace is really starting to build now. They've got all the horses out and the various stable hands, get them all prepared.
By this point, head girl Dominica and her team have already been up for 11 hours.
I get up at 5:30.
Yeah.
If it's a chukka day like today, I'm gonna have the horses outside waiting, then get the horses ready.
Polo's played in 7-minute chunks called chukkers. But the same horse can't be used consecutively.
So there are actual rules for how many chakas and minutes in a day the horse can actually play and be on a field.
So there is a sense in polo of the horse's welfare?
Yeah, definitely. You need at least 2 horses.
Yeah.
But because they get tired, it's always better to have more. So usually people have around 3 or 4.
And if you can afford the horses, you can afford the horsepower.
It's about a quarter of an hour to go. Outside, the players in their whites are beginning to turn up. There's a few million quid's worth of very tasty cars out there.
But it's the practice match I've come to see. On the grounds, prepped by those thousands of gallons of Thames water.
Once you see them all knocking it around, it gives the whole place meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you can see how the ground actually is nice and soft.
It's because it's been properly watered.
Yes, by us.
That's Jason, who taught me earlier on. He's the pro. Look, there he goes.
That one is gonna finish. Jason is gonna bring me a horse. I'm gonna untuck it, hose it, grab another one, and warm it for Abby.
It's like a pit stop for ponies, isn't it?
Exactly.
You look like you're having a good life.
I'm loving it.
Well, this is the game that the British Raj played in India a century and a half ago. And now this is the last polo field in London. Part of London that doesn't even really feel like London. It's like a Garden of Eden, complete with Maseratis and Land Rovers.
But there's another paradise on this part of the Thames I've been desperate to visit since I was a teen. A spitting distance away, between the river's north and south banks, is the birthplace of a whole different kind of royalty. The Crown Kings of rock and roll.
I've always wanted to cross that bridge because over there is Eel Pie Island, and in my early teens, Eel Pie Island was like Xanadu or Mandalay. It was somewhere I wasn't even sure existed, but if it did, I wanted to go there, even in my dreams, because that was where all the young rock gods of my generation, the Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck, they all played there before they were famous. And now, at last, I'm going to go there. 40 years too late.
So the story goes the name eel pie stems from the 1600s, when residents here would catch eels, cook them in pastry and hand them out to passing river traders. 3 centuries on, the island became Britain's largest hippie commune and a 60s mecca for rock and roll. And I'm here at last.
It's just like a dream.
I'm visiting local resident Celia Holman. She lives on the very spot that was once one of the country's most important music venues.
Hi, Celia.
Hello, come on in, Tony.
Thank you. This is a gorgeous house and garden.
Thank you so much.
But what really interests me is what was here before it was built.
You're on the site of the Eel Pie Island Hotel. And it was most famous in the 1960s because it had a ballroom, and that ballroom became an iconic venue for many of the names that we associate with the 50s and 60s. That's why everybody's jumping up and down to the likes of the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Rod Stewart. There is a long list of people who graced its stage.
But they tended to come here before they were really famous, didn't they?
Absolutely. People tell us tales about gigs where the Rolling Stones of Mick Jagger going around collecting beer glasses, you know, making himself useful, like the nice young man he was. Rod Stewart, he didn't come here as a performer. He came here as somebody in the audience. One evening after attending a gig, he was playing his kind of harmonica on Twickenham Station, singing a few tunes, and Long John Baldry liked what he heard. They got on the train into central London together. By the end of the train journey, Rod was in the band. And that really was the start of Rod Stewart.
The old hotel may have gone, but I can still revisit the past. Over on the riverbank, there's a museum showcasing the acts who performed at the now legendary venue. Set up by another local resident, It's a mecca for anyone who loves music from the 60s and 70s. But the story starts way back in the 50s with jazz.
There's Ken Collier, Acker Bilk, he was famous. And Skiffle too, look, there's Lonnie Donegan. Now, I actually knew Lonnie Donegan. He lived round the corner from my mum and dad in South Woodford, and I knocked on his door one Bob-a-Job day, and he let me weed his garden. He never taught me skiffle guitar. Quite frankly, I wasn't very good at gardening either.
A decade on, and we're into rock and roll.
Oh, this is fascinating. Julian's Treatment plus Genesis. Genesis were the support band. I wonder what happened to Julian's Treatment.
These artists are household names now, but back then they were just starting out.
Come over here, look. Davy Jones and the Lower Third. Do you know who Davy Jones was? David Bowie.
I'm blown away that this tiny island on the Thames was so pivotal in the UK's underground music scene. And music historian Pete Watt has spent the last few years cataloguing as many performances as he can trace.
Pete, how many bands do you reckon played here?
Well, 5 years ago when I put this roll call together, that's 900 gigs. Not necessarily 900 bands, but 900 gigs, and I now have 1,300. The Stones playing 24 times in the space of 5 months. They have 5-month residency.
Just imagine being at one of those gigs.
And lots of interesting people that you wouldn't expect. Somebody like David Essex played here.
Hooray!
You know?
Oh, how the world has changed. By the late 60s, the hotel had become a huge hippie commune.
That's where you started to see the rock bands of the era. The Black Sabbaths, the Deep Purples, Free, Taste, Genesis. It was getting into that progressive era.
But it didn't last. By the end of 1970, the building's reputation and condition had deteriorated, and pressure from the authorities forced the doors to close.
And sadly, the hotel itself burnt down a matter of 4 months later on, and that was it. All gone.
It's a great piece of music history, though, isn't it?
Next, I discover an Anglo-Saxon church still standing on the Thames. And inside, 1,000 years of religious history.
I mean, you can't say it's beautiful, can
No.
you, really?
The Sovereign has been the Church of England's defender of the faith and supreme governor since the reign of Henry VIII. And the final stop on my royal journey takes me 140 miles out of London, up the Thames, to a tiny village in Wiltshire called Inglesham. Here, above the waterside meadows on the banks of the river, is the Church of St. John the Baptist. It may look unassuming, but it's one of the few remaining Anglo-Saxon churches and tells the story of 1,000 years of religious history, including one of the biggest religious and royal breakups of the English Church. Andrew Zaminski is a stonemason who knows all about it.
Andrew, I was expecting this place to be really elaborate, but it looks like it needs a coat of paint, really.
Goodness me. Well, the joy of this place relates to its humble origins and the fact that this was just a run-of-the-mill, out-of-the-way church that existed in every single parish in England and across the British Isles.
What is it that's so uniquely special about this place?
Well, standing on this spot, we can look around this church and see the full story of English Christian history.
There have been Christians in Britain since Roman times, but it was the Anglo-Saxons who really embraced the faith. They built timber churches up and down the land, but survivors like this are really rare.
I'd noticed when we came through that door, I don't know much about church architecture, but that curve, that did look to me a bit Saxonish.
Yes, exactly right. It's 100% Saxony. Yeah.
OK, so that's what century, would you say?
10th, going into the 11th century.
So then the Normans invaded. Have we got anything Norman?
Yeah, we have. If we look down here.
Yeah.
If you look on the right, we go past these lovely box pews.
Yeah.
And we've got these blind arcades. You can see these were never meant to take windows by the painted decoration inside.
So this is Norman?
This is Norman, but here you can see where the layers of history really come together. So you've got this Puritan script.
Yeah.
This is written in English.
Documented on this wall is the story of one of the most turbulent eras in English church history, the Reformation. When in 1533, Henry VIII broke with the Catholic Church so he could divorce and remarry. In the aftermath, puritanical Protestants went about stripping church buildings of every trace of Catholic imagery.
They smashed up everything here, except for some obscure reason they left that.
Except for that, which is a bit random. This is a reredos, so here are some saints' images. This would have supported an image of the crucifixion. But if you look at these images, they're like transfers. There's a bit of gold there, just on the halo.
This place is fascinating.
These box pews here, these are Jacobean in origin.
And there's even a Victorian harmonium. 1,000 years of religious mementos just sitting humbly by the river.
Of all the things in here, though, what's your favourite?
Well, it has to be this Anglo-Saxon sculpture of Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus.
So we're way back even before the Norman invasion again?
Yes, exactly.
Same sort of period as the arch when we came into the church?
Exactly.
I love it just because it looks so weird.
I mean, you can't say it's beautiful, can you, really? No. But I like the hand of God coming down to bless the Christ child. Yeah. But what I absolutely adore about this is the fact that it's a survivor. If you have a look at the Book of Kells, which is an 8th century manuscript made on the island of Iona in Scotland, you can see the same image on one of the opening pages, and that is considered to be the earliest representation of the Virgin and Child in Christian art. Which
anywhere?
Is anywhere. So I have to think, what's earlier? Is the Book of Kells earlier than this? You know, what was the...
Did this copy the Book of Kells, or did they both use the same source?
Yeah.
Anyway, of profound historical significance.
Absolutely.
It's not an ornate church, but its layers of history make it even more beautiful and enthralling. For me, this truly is a royal gem on the River Thames. Next time on the Thames, I discover the sacred side of the river.
It was at these steps where the Thames became holy.
Attempt to reach new heights.
I'll probably be needing an oxygen tank soon.
Visit the riverside home of my hero.
It's exactly as I pictured it.
And join the teams at London City Airport.
Right, Tony, get your fire kit on. You're coming with us. Get your fire kit.
Come with you. I'm coming.